is up, ADD fam? What is up? What is up? Mike Adams. So, I'm going to tell you about my friend who's no longer with us, Mike Adams. The year was 2010-ish. I believe it was 210 on the dot. I went to jail for spanking my kids. I told the story. I met this guy, Mike Adams. We become best friends. We hit it off, right? We're in the dorm. It's me, Mike Adams, my buddy, what's his fucking, Eric Savage, who was my pot guy on the street at the time. Coincidentally, gets busted and arrested. He's in the pod with us at the same time. And it's me and Mike and a couple other dudes. And one of Mike's best childhood friends, and his friend died. I told the story while in the dorm from some kind of brain aneurysm or something from some bad bathtub crank. Didn't get taken to the hospital like he was supposed to for his treatment. Anyways, so Mike Adams was this guy that I met, and we hit it off rather well, as I usually do with guys that have ADD and mental problems as well. So we clicked, we bonded, and he got out way before I did. And when I got out, we became very tight. He came and picked me up from my parents' house when I just got out of jail the first 2 nights that I got out. And he took me out on the weekends. At this time, I just had to come back to my parents' house. My kids are in a group home, and my wife's in a rehab for women. And so me and Mike got rather tight and close during that time in jail. So when we got out, we become best of buds. So we first started out, for the first couple of months, I didn't get to talk to my wife or anything, right? And so me and Mike are hanging out a lot. I'm hanging out with John at this time too, but more so Mike on the weekends, and we're kicking it. And so I go from I moved in with him, right? So when I move in with him, he's on intense probation and all this shit. He had been to prison. Oh, that's what I was going to say. There was another guy in the dorm with us. Mike and this girl came in and did something real fucked up. She hit this guy with something, and this girl hit her boyfriend. No, excuse me. She just hit this guy for no reason over a dope deal or something, and hit him so hard with a blunt object. It was either the guy she hit, or they hit her. One of the two got hit, and their eyeballs came out of the socket, right? They got hit so hard. I believe it was the girl hit some dude. So Mike and all his buddies beat the shit out of her, right? He doesn't really do much, but he does some. He kicks her. They all go to prison. All of them. Her boyfriend at the time was upstairs in the house in his bedroom sleeping. The girls who's pulled this shit, and they've all ganged up on her and beat her up. Her boyfriend's up in the bed, gets out of, he's just woken up, comes down the stairs, and the police are, guns waving at him, get down, and all that shit, right? So he didn't know nothing about it. He was in the dorm with us. Okay, so what Mike was telling the story, he's pointing to this guy, that dude's girlfriend. The reason the first time I went to prison. And so, it was a crazy ass story. So that's the first time he had gone to prison. And I forgot the second time, but I'm pretty sure it was drug related. He had gone to prison twice. He had done a 4-year, and I don't remember the other. Maybe it was a 3-year. So he'd done quite a few years in prison. And he was a lot like me, and an addict and all this kind of shit, a head case. And so he was a heroin addict before I met him, and then he goes to jail, he cleans up, he gets out, he cleans up, cleans his act up. So after some time, he goes back to shooting up, right? This is before I ever even tried it. So we're hanging out on the weekends, and he's got intense probation and all this shit. And so I move in with him, right? Well, that was a bad move. I move in with him. He's on intense probation. He's got this on-again, off-again girlfriend that I talked about, and they're fighting all the time and make me nervous. And he's on probation. His probation officers, either probation or parole officers, coming over to the house, twice a week. So I didn't know that from the start, but and whatever. I'm bonded out I'm bonded out now. Keep in mind, just before I went, I think just before I went back to jail. Yeah, I bonded out, was out for 3 or plus months, and my family then got back together with my wife. My family come off my bond. I went back to jail. So I move in with him, and it's another shit show after another. And one morning, him and his girlfriend are fighting, arguing Sunday morning, and the police come. And they're knocking on the door, banging the door. He comes down there, and they just, now they want to do just a check, right? Well, there's all kind of dope in the place. He's not doing dope now, but his girlfriend is. There's all kind of dope and pills and shit in there, and I'm just fucking freaked the fuck out, right? I'm out on specific. When you're out on bond, you're supposed to, you got to walk a tight rope to begin with. You're not supposed to hang out with people in trouble, all this kind of shit, right? The same when you're on probation. So I'm freaking. They're constantly getting the police over here for his probation and because his girlfriend. So the police are knocking, and they're telling him they need to come in. They need to see that he had neighbors that didn't like him that called the police, and so they got to do a check. And he's yelling up the stairs and telling his girlfriend, "Come here. They just want to make sure you're all right. Come on, come here." And she wouldn't come, and she's in the bathroom flushing dope and pills, and it made for a very crazy, scary as fuck ordeal, right? I look out the window, you got all these cops out there, lights, couple of cop cars. He's on probation parole. She's on probation parole. I'm out on bond, and I'm fucking tweaking, right? So this kind of shit on went for some time. So, as I mentioned before, I move out. Me and my wife move into a hotel in Roswell, so we can both be closer to work. And so from there is when I got arrested and went back to jail. I told the story. He wrote me a letter when he said he wasn't, when he said he wouldn't. A crazy ass coincidence came on the same time. Another my wife's address from rehab came into play. That's a story on its own. So a lot of crazy transpired shit went on with Mike through the whole way through. When I get out of jail the second time, we're now talking, and he gets me a job, and I have to go. I'm staying in a hotel, my wife, and it's within a 5-mile radius of where I'm working, coincidentally, and I didn't have a car at the time, so things couldn't have worked out better for me. As a matter of fact, I had to go. I borrowed some money from him, right? And I didn't have a car at the time, and I had to go to Atlanta on the bus and train all the way to his house. It was a nightmare. It was like a whole day ordeal. I think I left the hotel like, noon, and I got to his house at like 10 o'clock at night. But it's only 30 miles away. But I had to go in the opposite direction. I had to go all the way to Atlanta because I'm in Fulton County and he's in Cobb County. And so he lives right by where I live now, or he did. So it takes forever and a day to get to his house. I get to his house 10 o'clock at night. I borrow $200. I stay the night and I sleep. The next day he takes me out to Roswell because he's working out there, right? He drops me off close to the hotel. I go there, and another couple weeks go by, and I'm having a tough time at work, and he gets me a job. And the job he gets me is right in the vicinity. Every job I went to for the 5 years that I worked there was 15 minutes in every direction. In any direction from where I was staying was 15 minutes, right? It couldn't have been sweeter and easier. Another one of these godsends, right? So he hooked that up for me. He got me a job. We worked together for about 6 months plus, about 6 months ish. I know it's less than a year. And he ODs and dies. Well, before he goes all out on this last bender, his girlfriend, his on again, off again girlfriend from literally childhood, they've been boyfriend and girlfriend since they were kids, right? She's moving to Florida, and she gives him the ultimatum, come with me or don't, but I'm out of here. And so she drops the ball and tells him this while he's at work one day. He's hollering, screaming and carrying on at work. My buddy and our supervisor, David, tells him, go on. He says, I gotta go. He says, yeah, you go on, go handle your business. They're fighting, for an hour or two, a couple hours on the phone while he's working, and you can hear it all, and he's screaming and all that. And so he's got to go home. He knows she's gonna take all this shit, whatever. So he goes home. She takes off. She leaves him. He went into one of his stupors, went straight into, from basically overnight into straight, right back into his old ways, shooting up and all that kind of shit, right? So I told the story. I was hanging out with him, and we had done some crack together, and that was on a Saturday. And then a Sunday, Monday, we find out he doesn't show up to work. One of our guys, Steve, which is David's brother, goes to his house, to his apartment, to look for him, and a neighbor, which happens to be a relative of his, comes out and tells Steve he's at the hospital. He's on life support. He's fighting for his life right now. So we find this out, and we all go, me and my wife and David and Steve all go to the hospital. So we get there, and he's hooked up to a machine, but there's no brain function. He's already dead, right? So his mom tells me they've just got him hooked up to a machine, keeping him alive, and enough time this out-of-town relatives and family can come say their goodbyes, but he's already dead, right? So I get up there, and his mom tells me to go in there and kiss him on the head goodbye. He had bald head. I went in there and did that. It freaked my wife out. I was in there kissing a dead guy, and it haunted me for some time, right? Kissing my dead buddy, and he's already dead. And so his on again, off again girlfriend's come back to she's come back from Florida, and she's been at the hospital for coming on a day or two, and has been up there a couple of days and hadn't slept. And the paramedics, all the people at the hospital and all that, feel for her and have tried to help her and keep an eye on her. And she's got a lot of people concerned. She's been walking around the hospital now for 24, going on 48 hours. And she's a complete wreck, mental basket case, right? This has completely put her over the edge. Like I said, they were on again, off again, but they were boyfriend, girlfriend nonetheless. They used to play together in the dirt. They were, they were friends when they were little kids. He used to tell me, when they were kids, 5, 6, 7 years old, 8 years old, they were playing together. So he knew her his whole life. So she walked around the hospital, and I tried to talk to her, and she was completely catatonic, complete. She's completely out there. Almost overdosed, but still carrying on. If you've ever been in addiction or seen anybody on addiction, you know what I'm saying. Just barely in there, and so this stuck with her, and it was a year to the day. I shit you not. It was a year to the day on his birth date or death date, whatever you want to call it. She OD'd and died. She killed herself. So that was I never got to get that part out. I don't think people know that. But she carried that demon around for a year, and it drove her batshit crazy, and she killed herself on his anniversary. So that one sticks near and dear to me. Like I said, we were best friends. We eat, sleep, shit, worked, shit, showered, and shaved, worked together. So we were around each other round the clock. We were brothers. You've all had that kind of friendship with people. You're at a bad time in your life and you really need somebody. You just click. He was that guy, and I was that him for, vice versa. Me with my ADD and my, silly, acting crazy shit. He was a lot in the same way. And so my yeet dance come from him. We started a lot of, sayings and shit together. My boy Deezy came out of that because he was Schneezy. He was my Neezy, my nigga. Went from my nigga to my Neezy, my Schneezy, my Schnizzle. And so we said this to each other at work all the time. And so, the guys are picking up on this, and it's become lingo with all the people that were around. So if I see some of these guys, and I do from time to time, me and David worked together off and on for many years. He's a wonderful guy. I'll tell about him one time. He's an ex-drug dealer, Christian guy, completely straight across the board, doesn't do anything but work, owns his own company, builds race cars. David's cool as fuck. David Sullivan's one awesome dude. We'll get into him one day. But yeah, Mike Adams, he's no longer with us, and his death date's coming up, and so I just thought about that. So stay ADD, but whatever you do, stay alive.